Hey guys, what is going on? It is Ando, and today we've got a video that I've been working on for a little bit right now. It's gonna be a fun one. So before we get into it, if you guys want to help out the channel by hitting the thumbs up, liking the video, subscribing to the channels, it definitely helps me as well. And then give me a comment, give me some feedback if you guys like these. I want to maybe look into doing them monthly, as the meta kind of shifts and changes a little bit. But yeah, this is going to be basically, we're looking at the top Galactic Legends for all of July and a little bit beyond that, or before that and a little bit beyond that. But again, hopefully maybe we do a little bit of a monthly kind of thing. So before we get into the video though, it's gonna be, I got to give you a little bit of background info. So all this data is on SWGoH.gg. You can recreate it if you want to, if you don't believe me. But I try to gather from Kyber 1 as it kind of helps eliminate, the quote unquote noise. It kind of, a lot of the player modding is kind of the same. And at the end of the day, it's kind of the goal for a lot of players to get there, right? A lot of times, we try to replicate what's happening in Kyber 1 just because it is, top of the line rosters, top of the line players. So yeah, that's kind of where we got a lot of the data. I made sure that both attackers and defenders will have datacrons. Again, if this is, we're gonna just kind of take these in short snippets. We want to make sure we're kind of capturing, our datacrons affecting this, because we want to get the most effective teams. We want to get the most effective Galactic Legends, as they're the biggest parts of our roster. And there's just no cleanup data, right? So I'm not gonna include, that someone failed on a Lord Vader 15 times, like that doesn't matter. It's just no cleanup data, right? And then so with this, we should kind of get an accurate depiction of what the best GLs are, and the order is going to be based on, or it's going to be a little bit more biased towards the defensive side, as I think that's a little bit more interesting, quite honestly. There's obvious cases where a human mind is going to play it way better than the AI does, but when you can find that kind of rare balance of a character or a team that can also operate on defense, I think that makes it to where we can make it a little bit more interesting, right? So but it's not excluding offense either. So, and then the data is objective, but I'm going to be adding my own personal opinion on it. So that part's going to be subjective. So again, just want to give a little background so that way we know. And before we get into the rankings, right? So just want to say, this is the top Galactic Legends. This being the last Galactic Legend doesn't mean you're trash. Doesn't mean you suck. It doesn't mean, they're just horrible. You shouldn't farm them. Which brings up another point. This isn't some sort of farming video. This is trying to help you guys create the best teams possible, kind of figure out maybe which teams should get your best crons, or maybe like where we can kind of divide and conquer a little bit. Again, hopefully all the videos that I make are just helpful. That's at the end of the day, that's what I want it to be. So but yes, the rankings, even though you might be the last one, doesn't mean you're trash, doesn't mean you're bad, doesn't mean you can't find any uses. It just means that right now your uses are maybe limited, or there's like a counter or two that might not be like the best trade-off. So all that stuff is kind of taken into account. All right, now that we've kind of got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. So JML, he's number 7. I feel bad for him. He's just, at this point, a lot of the things that happen with him is, especially, he's just not great on defense. There's a lot of bias towards that, and that's probably why he kind of fell to this point. He is doing some decent things on offense, but first we'll go through it. In 397 battles of him being on defense, they went through him 82.37% of the times for an average of 60 banners. 60.5 banners. Now that is a pretty decent banner loss, but at the same time, 82.37%, there's actually like non-GL teams that get higher hold rates than that. So again, it's just sort of understanding that, and I think we all kind of know JML, he's in a spot where he's doing stuff on offense, but even the things that he's doing on offense, it feels like he's kind of fighting right now with one arm behind his back. And that's especially worrisome to me, because right now his datacron sets, actually both of them work out pretty good for him. They both have protections. protection percentages on them. And honestly, the level, 3 on set 8 with the potency can usually cover up a lot of modding mistakes that we might make trying to just protection load someone. It's really great to get those ability blocks and those breaches out there. And then, obviously the level 3 on set 9 is just fantastic as well. So yeah, basically for his best Datacron set, whichever he favors, whichever one has the highest protection, but set 9 probably favors just a little bit more, unless again you can kind of get a bigger protection percentage. So his notable counters right now, the good thing about him is there's not really any true like off meta stuff that's going on. I did on one of my GACs, I did use a General Grievous to kill sort of a bad JML. I think it had a set 9 cron on it, but that doesn't mean that it's happening often. In fact, if you look at the stats, it's actually quite rare for it to happen. But that being said, if you look at the stats with Reva, C, or JMK, they just absolutely walk on him. Also, the JML mirror is pretty solid as well. But the other part that's hard to kind of hammer down, and this is again, this split, this squad that you're seeing right now, it's not like the best of all worlds. It's just the cool part about this one right here is that on offense, it's actually killing Lord Vader, which is a pretty hard thing to do, and it's killing it at a pretty good rate. So that's probably my suggested squad for you guys, right? Like that composition, it's killing Lord Vader's. That, like I said, pretty good, is a pretty good team that's happening. But one thing that is hard to kind of hammer down with JML, and it's similar to with Rey, is just the different variations, right? Because some people have Jedi Knight Cal, some people don't. Some people, they want to use different, they want Jedi Knight Revan to be its own lead. So all these things kind of play into itself and kind of make it hard for you guys to decide what is, the best comp to use, because Jedi can conceivably make up at least 2 pretty great teams. So again, just kind of that team comp right up there that I placed is more about countering Lord Vader, and at a pretty good success rate. Okay, number 6. This one's hard for me to swallow too, because I, coming from even like pre-Datacrons, right? JMK just really was one of the best, if not the best. But on defense, we saw him on defense 871% of the time. His success rate is quite a bit lower than JML's at 69.4%. And again, it got the 60.5 banners. A lot of that is going to be, what counter you decide to choose. But basically, we are saying that we're going to favor set 9 on this as well. It has the health. Health really helps him kind of stack that bonus protection. Plus, obviously, the 50% health and protection. And, defense also helps as well. But the success rate has kind of come down a little bit, I think, surprisingly, because not many people are running the JMK mirror, but that is still basically an auto win, right, at 88.53% in 218 battles. But JML is the one that took a big hit, right? And that's because, again, stacking health, stacking, the level 3 cron on him as well, can make it to where it's really hard to kill Cat, especially when Padme's in there. So that's why this comp is up there right now. This comp is up there because, again, on defense, if they're relying on that JML to kill, it can be really, really tough because of Padme's unique. When they attack out of turn, right, you kind of, give them a little bit more bulk. And then on top of that, right, like they've already have a ton of it from the cron. So it can get a little bit hard due to that. So yeah, if you see there, JML took a bit of hit. It's succeeding at about 53% of the time in 104 battles. So yeah, sort of the additional info, right? Padme just makes a ton of sense in this squad due to that bolt cron. And then it kind of leads to timeouts on defense. But again, if you're just using the JMK mirror, it's still good. If you're using C and you're modded right, and you've got some extra ability block stuff in there, you're going to be fine as well. But you're going to get the lower banners. But if you are going to take this on offense and you want to fight Jabba, you're going to want to replace GK with Mace. as that's going to be the best comp to try to get through some of those thick chrysanthemums. So just keep that in mind. Okay, number 5 is SLKR, right? So we only saw him in 123 battles, which it makes sense, but and success rate is about 75% of the time at 61.4 banners. The best set for him undoubtedly is set 9. Basically with set 9, JKR JKL is brought down to kind of like a 33% chance. Now that's the normal JKR JKL. You can kind of do some things to increase your percentages. One of those is kind of increasing to increase that percentage. You can bring in the armor. That trick is starting to work again a little bit. Just kind of helps keep your Jedi Knight Luke alive a little bit longer and just kind of counter and kind of get through some of these comps. But it is kind of, again, like you've kind of removed the off meta counter for them, and now you kind of get back into JML, JMK, and Reva still just do really, really well against him, even with the set 9. But if you are going to use the M on defense and even offense, technically, this is the comp that you want to use with them. Actually, on defense, you're going to want to use Sith Trooper instead of First Order Officer. This is the comp that you use against Jabba, and that's why I put it up there. Technically, this is the highest success rate on Jabba's. Kind of blew my mind. I normally do have the two Fu and Hux and Crew, but I usually sub out Wat Tambor for Foss, and that usually helps me out a little bit more. In fact, I actually just lost with this comp. It's still about a 75% win rate against Jabba with this comp though. And again, kind of my additional info on SLKR is what he does on offense is he kills pretty much every GL that is a big problem right now. And so like all the GLs that are kind of going to be above him in this list. So it does feel like you have to jump through more hoops than it's worth to make him viable. Additionally, what you also have to do is you have to pull out some of those counters like JML, JMK, Reva, to make sure that you're kind of protecting him. So if he's going to be a backwall team, most likely. And so you just kind of have to hope and pray, I guess, that you've kind of set up your defenses in such a way that you're going to pull out those counters before you get to them. And then if you've done that, you've done a pretty good job at making SLKR pretty good. Okay, so number 4, Rey. So obviously, huge uptick in battles. This is where we're going to start getting into like who's really the meta here on defense. And I think we all know because it's been the same 3 for a little bit, but Rey is going to have dropped. Like if I were to come out with a rating last time, Rey's going to drop a few spots here where she's number 4 now. Now, she is still getting a success rate of almost 70% for 61.5 banners. The best DC set for her, really, she favors set 9, but set 8 is still manageable. And the defense percentage is really, really nice with this comp, specifically with the double heals that come from Zaris and Cal. So obviously the notable counters for Rey right now is that EPSK is just still a threat, right? The percentages are still pretty good if you know what you're doing and if you have a different comp than this. But with this comp, you've got about a 64% on the first time. And the big thing is, and that's in 253 battles, so a pretty decent sample size. The big thing is again, this double heal, right? Anytime that debuffs are thrown out there, we're going to get re-healed a little bit. There's going to be a little bit of protection up that's thrown out there. And then anytime we're crit, which is all the time again with just, EP Mara, SK, they're always trying to do those two things. Zaris is going to re-heal. So it creates this weird thing where you want to kill Zaris, you want to kill Cal, you also want to kill, JTR as soon as possible. You also need to get Rey into yellow, so that way you can kind of finish off, Ben or whatever, or if not finish him off, kill him before he gets to an ult. So that way, hopefully, you don't get that full damage. But yeah, it's a hard one to counter with that EP Star Killer. So And defense, again, added to like the reheals and all that good stuff, can make it feel like you're not doing much damage against this team. But the additional info, it's a hard one to hammer down, just because again, she is like JML, where she has so many different comps. And then yeah, you know, your EPSK has so many different comps as well. But you can also use that to advantage, as it's also hard for your own opponents to predict what is going to happen with what you have out there. So you know, if you sub out Zaris with Zori, that moves it to about a 47.2% chance in 55 battles. You also though lose Zori, that's why I didn't put it here as this. But that also seems to open up Gas or JML as actual counters as well. So just to keep that in mind. Okay, number 3, C. 285 battles, and I'm gonna tell you, there's not enough C's out there on defense. I'm telling you, it's pretty good. I've been placing mine, and it's been working out pretty well. So 61.05% of the time for 60.1 banners. The best C set for it is by far set 9 with the ability block on level 6 with the Sith. Notable counters is C and SLKR are basically 100% counters, but Wampa gets massively disrupted. So if they think they're going to try to Wampa it, it's just not going to work out for them. Just because already it was sort of a timeout team. And, you know, before people, they used to say, don't set a bad, if you're going to set C, don't set it with a bad team or whatever the case is. Here's the thing, right? And here's why I put this comp here. These guys are mostly leftover Sith for, you know, most people's strategies. The thing is Wampa is the big one that we have to safeguard them against. If they have C or SLKR available, doesn't matter really what your comp is, you're probably gonna lose it, because again, just that's what the data is saying. Now I guess if they're just trying to be crazy and they just go in like with literally like C solo or something like that, you know, a Treya team in there, or like, you know, a Savage in there would definitely be like, maybe not an instant loss, but definitely feel like you're gonna get kind of wrecked there. But yeah, that's the big thing, is we want to just protect against Wampa. We want to protect against other things. It's hard to actually piecemeal this team together unless they've just got like so much left over. So again, this would be like a backwall team, right? You want to kind of bring out SLKR, right? That's not hard. Jabba, Lord Vader, all those probably make sense. You want to bring out C, right? Ton of people are still using C on Malgus, so you maybe bring out that, right? JMK you kind of want to bring out if they're bringing JMK on offense. So there's a few different teams that you're going to want to bring out before you kind of, you know, show your hand with C. But if you guys can get that right, it's really, really hard for your opponents to one-shot this team. Okay, so number 2, this guy would have dropped from number 1 for me. I think like last month he would have probably been number 1. He's got 4,226 battles on defense. His success rate was about 50% of the time at 58.7 banners. We'll go into the you know, number 1 and number 2 are pretty much interchangeable. We'll kind of go into why I decided that, but we'll go into it a little bit later. So the best DC set for him is set 9, typically with the dark side guys, right? Making Chrysanthemum a little bit thicker, making your Jabba a little bit thicker. So the notable counters, percentage-wise, SLKR is your best bet overall. If you just look at SLKR versus Jabba in Kyber 1, it's at 66% of the time, so it's not like excellent. You know, that's different comps, right? It's different strategies. But JMK is about 49.71% of the time in 1200 battles. So also decked out Afras, and I mean decked out ones that have Omicrons, ones that are like Relic 8, right? Including the droids. They're actually doing really well against Jabba still, which is surprising, because I know a lot of people are saying, you know, Afra's just an afterthought. She's actually still pretty good. So additional info, right? JMK is a bit tricky. Mace helps, right? The thickness cron has kind of made it to where Mace is not an option anymore. You have to bring him to reduce down, or else you're just going to time out. But the other thing of that is there's about 20% chance that Jabba eats Cat. And honestly, I've also been on this side. If Jabba eats Mace, it's still really hard to get through some of those Relic 9 Chrysanthemums that have the Omicron, that have, you know, 200% defense, and they're just stacked. Without, even with Cat there, you start to really run up against time. So if that happens, you're just basically guaranteed a timeout. Defense percentage is also a bit inflated, and again, this kind of goes into why I put him as number 2, because Night Sisters, a lot of people are trying Night Sisters, including myself. So 267 battles, and it's currently, you know, got a 15% success rate. So yeah, that's a true thing. It is easier to two-shot him though at this point. So that leads us to our number 1, and that is going to be Lord Vader, right? In 3,879 battles, this guy is still very comparable to success rates on Jabba with a 50.48, and then banners are about 58.7, right? The best DC set is set 9. There's no question about it. I told like my stream that that's going to happen. I guarantee it, and that is the truth. This is the comp that you want to run. If you're going to run him on defense, run him with this comp. There is no exchanges except for one, and we'll get into that later, but this is the team, guys. Do not mess around with it. Okay. And then, yes, if you can get a level 6 ability block from the Sith, that's even better. So the notable counters with set 9 is just greatly affects Fennec, and I kind of called this again earlier, even like into 3v3 last season. I was like, guys, don't sleep on it. It might not work as well in 3v3, but it's going to work in 5v5. But it even affects the GL counters, right? So Fennec right now, if you just look at the overall Fennec versus Lord Vader battles, even with the bad comps, you're looking at a 16.77% rate with 775 battles. What does that mean for you guys that are using Fennec? Probably not gonna work, right? There's a good chance that you're not gonna get it. Even JMK, right? JMK, this is why I ranked him a little bit lower. He's at a 66.39%. So you've got the 2 big defensive guys that we've seen the most numbers from, Jabba and Lord Vader, and JMK has a pretty low percentage when it comes to GL versus GL. And then SLKR is also at a 60% in 775 battles. Now, I think a lot of that is due to timeout and not actually just losing outright, but still, it's a big risk that's going on. So additional info, I cannot tell you guys enough. In the data, it speaks loud and clear. Do not bring Canderous anymore. I think people are trying to use it because it was for a little bit like kind of a pseudo kind of I'm gonna stop Fennec kind of thing, or troopers even, and it doesn't work anymore. So don't bring Canderous, right? The percentages go from like that 16% to like back up to like 50%. If you put in Canderous, right? Bring in this team. If you really need Darth Vader for your Afro team or something like that, then the only substitute that is really kind of comparable is Night Sister. So anyways, guys, like I said, hopefully this was insightful. Hopefully this helped a little bit in your planning and what teams you're going to want to use. Obviously, it's not the full picture because there is a turn order that in some of these teams that you're going to want to have, but hopefully at least gets you guys thinking in the right direction as we head into this final week of 5v5, and maybe we'll see some more data and we'll kind of glean some more things from this. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did like the video, make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you guys comment on what your favorite team comp is, especially on defense, because I want to steal it. And then subscribe to the channel for more good and awesome content on this game. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.